We're joined on the phone once again by Irwin Simon, CEO, interim CEO and board chair. Irwin, thanks very much. Sorry about that breakup earlier. Thanks very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Irwin, I know it's a complicated one. We haven't got that much time, but can you explain how does this deal with green growth work? So that they basically are walking away from their unsolicited takeover bid?
So number one, they shortened the date in regards to their takeover bid to April 25th, which then would expire. And both of us had investments in each other's stock. And, those both will be liquidated. And the value on it is approximately $89 million, which Aphria will, take and ultimately use in our future growth of the business. So number one, the offer is, ultimately will expire in a few days, and there's an $89 million of cash that will come into Aphria.
So you get $29 million out of this thing?
No, actually 89 million. But it was stock that we owned, 27.5 million shares that we owned of Green Growth.
And they're going to buy them back from you, essentially?
Well, there's an intermediary in between that, and it will be liquidated through that intermediary. And if they buy it back, that's not us. It's between them and the intermediary.
Okay, but you get $89 million in cash out of this thing anyway.
We will get $89 million of cash out of this.
Oh, okay, no problem. Now, you did bite the bullet partially on the LATAM assets, take a $50 million charge, but it's only a fraction of only a portion of the value. But you thought that was the way to go here.
So listen, I think as you come back and look, and accounting is accounting, and the way, accountants look at it today and what's the value. When we did the Nuvera deal, it was for a long-term strategy. And what was the strategy of Latin America? What was the strategy of Brazil? And I think the most important thing is what we ultimately grow it into. It's not what the valuations are and what's on the books. And, that write-down is a non-cash charge. And but it doesn't say the asset is worth less. And it doesn't say that we're not going to emphasize on the asset. The asset is absolutely a part of our strategic growth going forward, and the asset has a lot of value in it as we bring all our assets together internationally.
One of your critics, Hindenburg Research, is out with a tweet saying, we expect there'll be more write-downs in subsequent quarters. Will there be?
So, right now, we do not expect any other write-downs. And, again, as we went through our special committee, we went through our reviews, that is something that we focus on. And ultimately, there's some great assets within Aphria and great assets that we think there's some great potential growth from.
Now, I want to get to, you've got some exciting additions to your board. I want to get to that in just a second. But can you tell us what's behind this quarter-on-quarter drop in cannabis sales?
So, number one, Andy, Aphria has been through a lot in the last 3 months. We went through the review, the short report. We went through the review by our special committee. We went through, fighting off a hostile takeover, and we went through a transition in the C-suite with 2 founders and the CEO. So just think what we've been through and what we've been able to deal with. At the same time, we recently obtained a license for Aphria 4 and 5. And in preparing for that license, we, purposely pulled back on our plants and made space for new plants. And that was what caused some of the reduction in regards to shipments of cannabis. So some of this was self-inflicted. But I think the big thing is, listen, this is a new industry, and Aphria has come out and said, we look to do $1 billion by 2020. So it's not, what we're doing today. It's what we're ultimately going to do. So if you think about it, what we have coming on in Aphria 4 and 5, and what we'll ultimately have happening in Aphria Diamond, and the future opportunities is tremendous. Listen, the opportunities in regards to vapes, the opportunities in regards to edibles, and what Aphria has today is 2.4 million square feet of growing space to grow cannabis products.
I do want to get to this, your board change, but one thing I was curious about, Vic Neufeld, he announced a planned transition out of the job. Now, your disclosure today says certain officers and non-independent directors retired. No amounts were paid to the retired officers as part of the retirement. So did Vic Neufeld get no goodbye package?
There was no severance packages paid to any of the members of the C-suite that left the company.
No problem. And that includes Vic?
That includes Vic Neufeld.
No problem. Now, one thing really caught our eye today, you've got a former co-CEO of Whole Foods Market coming on the board. I mean, that's quite an endorsement.
Well, you know, the two new board members that we added today, Walter Robb, who I happen to know quite well and worked with him for many years, you know, why I was the founder, chairman, and CEO of Hain. Walter got to Whole Foods when I think they had 20 stores and, you know, left when it was acquired, you know, by Amazon with 435 stores and built, you know, a global retail, food retailer around the world. And Walter has, you know, been part of other consumer companies, sits on other boards, will bring great experience to Aphria. David Hopkinson, who was, you know, chief commercial officer at Maple Leaf Gardens and now at Real Madrid, one of the world's greatest sports franchises, fellow Canadian, will bring a lot of great marketing, you know, intelligence to Aphria that will help us on a global basis. So two new board members, and we'll continuously, as we look, you know, always to enhance our governance, enhance our board, continuously look at that.
We'll have to leave. Irwin, thank you so much for joining us on a busy day.
Thank you very much.
Irwin Simon, interim CEO of Aphria.